President Cyril Ramaphosa has remembered Charlotte Maxeke as a pioneer and a brave leader. Ramaphosa delivered a memorial lecture at the party's celebration of what would have been Maxeke's 150th birthday. Now, she was the first black South African woman to graduate from an American university back in 1901. Probably the reason the president has committed to establishing a Charlotte Maxeke Memorial College. eNCA reporter Aviwe Mtila is in Fort Beaufort in the Eastern Cape. He joins us live now. Hi, Aviwe. So the president's described Charlotte Maxeke as a woman of outstanding leadership skills. What did he say?
Brave, fearless, a pioneer are just some of the words used by the president in describing the late stalwart Charlotte Maxeke and what would have been her 150th birthday. Her accolades are endless, Sally. You mentioned some of it. She was the first South African black female to obtain a degree, a Bachelor's of Science degree at that, in 1901. Doesn't end there. She was also the only woman at attendance when the South African Native National Congress was established, which later went on to be the African National Congress. I mean, the accolades don't even end there, Sally. She was among 700 women. She led, in fact, those women into Bloemfontein, facing up the then apartheid President Louis Botha, burning those passes, a clear standoff in those apartheid regulations. But one accolade that the president says is not mentioned a lot, and he even gave a chuckle when he mentioned this one, was her beauty, saying that the president looks at the picture and says, this was a beautiful woman. Let's take a look listen at President Cyril Ramaphosa just in describing Mama Charlotte Maxeke.
She was an outstanding leader, a leader with great wisdom. But Comrade Batabile, I heard you now, Tetangai. I didn't hear a single person saying that she was a very, very beautiful woman. Why am I there? Each time Doga is I just see a beautiful woman, but a very, very brave woman who had courage, who had wisdom, who had great leadership qualities.
And also a woman who was passionate about women's rights.
She wore many hats, Sally, but at the heart of it was about women's rights, as you mentioned, from talking to farm bosses, being basically in the unions, talking to farm bosses, fighting for women wages that were obviously low, and the women treatment that would have to be tested before they could work on those farms, to just pioneering the education at that time. Remember, she obtained that degree in 1901 at a time where women weren't seen to be adequate enough to obtain those degrees. Remember, at that time there were questions just around if it was worth it if you're going to take your child to school, given that they would end up married to another family. So those were the sentiments that were shared even by Minister Stella Ndabeni, just praising the woman that Mama Charlotte Maxeke was. Let's listen to that.
This is a woman who made her own mark in a male-dominated society, who made sure that the voice of women is heard. But as I said, she went on to mobilize others. That is why today, as this generation is saying, we cannot keep quiet when things are happening that undermine women, when women continue to be excluded.
The president also praising her for rising above the challenges that women, particularly in that era, were facing.
Certainly, and especially around education. And what's saddening to see now is that even colleges that are at Fort Beaufort, where she was born, and a pioneer basically for education, those colleges have been turned into offices, and the president giving his affirmation that that situation will be changed. It's another issue that the president touched on. Just let's have a listen on that.
Years into democracy, we have made significant strides in closing the gender parity in education. The strides we have made would have pleased Charlotte Maxeke. With regards to primary education, we're finding that 86% of girls attend primary school, and data from the Department of Basic Education indicates that the girls are also more likely to finish schools. Of last year's matriculation results, more girls attained bachelor's and diploma passes, as well as passes with distinction. They didn't only end there, but bafumana distinction.
And Aviwe, it was interesting that the president obviously spending the majority of his speech praising Charlotte Maxeke and her legacy, but he also used the opportunity to talk about what a disciplined member she was, that if she was told to do something by the party, she absolutely would have. Do you think that was a subtle reference to those who are refusing to step down from their party positions, even though they have been charged with criminal acts?
Certainly seeming that way, the president went on to speak about the unity of the party and how ashamed it would have been to Mama Charlotte Maxeke, how much of a disgrace these factional battles are currently, saying that these factions that are currently on the governing African National Congress wouldn't be something that she would have accepted herself. Remember, this is a woman who gave selflessly and basically was a pioneer in uniting even women, uniting the party itself for a better cause, a cause that would unite South Africans, especially the black South Africans at that time, just to give them a better prospects of a future, better prospects of education. So the president did affirm his stamp on the unity that we're not seeing in the governing African National Congress at this particular time. You remember that the party itself is heading to that elective conference next year, and those factional lines are tearing the party apart as we speak. You understand the SG of the party, Ace Magashule, has been given days among those that have been charged with corruption within the party, 30 days to step aside. Will he step aside? Will he adhere to what the party says, the NEC top 80 or the, I beg your pardon, the ANC top 80 or the National Executive Committee? Will he adhere to it and be a disciplined a soldier of the party, or what will happen? Only time will tell. But the unity is something that the president stamped on the party.